We
Right.
are live. Just okay, we are live.
We are live, sir. We are live.
Okay.
Hello. Hello, everyone. This is Pallavi Das from Powai Live, and we are here on a Sunday afternoon for a very interesting session in collaboration with Speed Labs. This panel discussion is very different to the ones that I've hosted earlier, recently. One as early as recently as day before. This is about coding and how coding is for everyone. Especially now, more so than ever, a lot of mothers, including me, have been wondering as to why does our fourth grader, fifth grader, 10th grader, first grader even need to get into the whole thing about coding? And we've got four fantastic guys to talk about just that. I've asked them to keep it super simple. I've asked them to come to our level of conversation and try to address us there. So jumping right in, we also hope you guys are rested enough after a warm celebration on Independence Day yesterday. From all that we've seen from Powai and around, most of it was at home, but very special and very patriotic. Of course, Dhoni and Raina stepping down also marked for us, I don't know, coming of to the times, but heroes move on. So moving on to this conversation, I'm going to introduce our panel first of all. We have Rohit with us, Rohit Mathur. Hi, Rohit. He's a founder of Exponentia.ai. I love the .ai, which is a transformative AI tech company, which has been in the area of technology development, investment banking for tech, healthcare, pharma, and life sciences for over 10 years. With his distinct knowledge and experience, he's taken hold of responsibilities for developing technology and knowledge tie-ups and thought leadership across sectors. Prior to founding this, he was a part of the investment banking expertise at Ernst & Young and Centrum Capital. He is from IIT Kanpur and an MBA from ISB Hyderabad. Welcome, Rohit.
Hey.
Hi. Then we have Amit with us. Hi, Amit.
Hi, Pallavi.
Amit is a partner at how do we say this? Sorry.
Gene Martin.
Gene Martin, a New York-based IT consulting firm responsible for building data analytics, artificial intelligence, and life sciences practice. Before this, he was India country head of Alexion Pharmaceuticals, where he helped build a 300 people global shared services function, offering innovative technology solutions and support for IT, finance, HR, and analytics. Wow, that's a lot. He took a leading role in executing advanced IT and life sciences projects for bioinformatics, biostatistics, and robotic process automation areas. Guys, this is way above my league, so pardon my ignorance a little bit here. He holds a BTech from IIT BHU and MBA from Cornell. So welcome, Amit. I'm looking forward to a fun conversation. And I hope I understand a lot of what you say today.
You will. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Nitesh. Hi, Nitesh.
Hey, Pallavi.
Hello. He's a senior product development professional with Microsoft and comes with over 2 decades of product development experience. Fantastic. Prior to Microsoft, he was with Virtusa, Coney Labs, and other global organizations. He's a passionate coder, fantastic, and has led the development of many global platforms. And he's also from IIT Kanpur. So what we have here are a few batchmates that go back a long way. Right, Vivek?
Yep.
And then finally we have Vivek. He's been on a couple of our panels before, and he's pretty known to the people of Hawaii, but still, I will introduce you. The founder of Speed Labs, an innovative pedagogy and personalized education platform. I'm kind of waiting for my son to get into grade 7 or 6 and then start with you guys. So I don't have to teach him maths anymore. Before founding Speed Labs, he was in investment banking and private equity with global majors like Deutsche, Morgan Stanley, and ICICI Venture Equity Capital, private equity. And also, we were colleagues at Morgan Stanley years back. So that's how I also know Vivek. He started his career as a physics faculty, I think, way back, and has been tracking the education space for more than a decade now. He has BTech from IIT Kanpur and an MBA from IIM Lucknow. So these are the boys that are going to hold the audience for the next hour or so. And I'm going to start with this conversation, jumping first into the arena of the digital and stepping into the coding aspect. So I'm going to take my first question to Vivek, which is that you started from finance and education, and your switch. I would love to know what was the main factor that drove you towards the switch, quickly if you may, and how does digital and the technology teacher here as a stepping stone to future.
Yeah, hi. Hi, thanks, Palvi. Excited to be on this panel. And hi, everyone. Amit, Nitesh, and Rohit. So answering your question, after almost a decade in finance, and I was always passionate about education. I realized that next decade will be the technology in education. And when you think about technology, this is a late entrant in healthcare as well as education. These are the two sectors where technology has been the late entrant, but the impact is tremendous. So if you think about it, when we study from a book, a printed material, or when you are practicing from a worksheet, we at a senior level, when you think about class 9th onwards, we end up spending too much time in figuring out things. And if you think about it on an entire year scale, this is a hundreds of hours of time wasted in just hunting around. And that was a big question for me, that can I save let's say 500 hours of each and every student per year? And if we can reach to thousands of students, then this is like a million hours of productivity saved for humanity. And this was an exciting task which I wanted to take up. And the use of technology is that where you can actually personalize each and every student's studies. And I thought that India is just at the cusp of taking off in terms of education technology in 2015. And I thought that next 15 years will be a fantastic time for education, where technology can play a very pivotal role for most of the students. So that was the excitement. And I think it's been now 5 years and we are getting there slowly, working with more than 500 teachers across the country, and looking forward to have more and more audience on our platform. So
Fantastic.
That was the first reason.
Great. Vivek, I've been tracking Speed Labs for some time, and what's very interesting is that you are kind of blending the actual teaching, the teaching as we know, which is the blackboard teaching, the teacher interpersonal relationship, as well as leveraging, of course, the fact that you can customize to areas of strength, areas of weakness, and give worksheets so that parents like us don't have to sit and print out and go on YouTube and do all that. So you're kind of making the rest of the job easy, and also kind of leveraging the hours wasted on XYZ. But what I want you to talk about also is that in a post-COVID world, or even right now in the ongoing COVID world, how has this platform really been able to get the fence sitters also into jumping right into the technology? Because all those people who said nahi padhai to bhai table ke kitab pe likh ke, and wo kitab pe likh ke hi hoti hai, and teacher सामने होगा नहीं तो पढ़ाई होगी नहीं. How have you kind of debunked or combined or collaborate with that kind of a thought process? I really want to know that, and I want people to hear that as well.
Yeah, no, I think this is a very interesting question. The point is that sometimes these changes are forced upon us, and then we realize that it's a good change. So unless we change, we don't know what is going to happen. So in that way, I think COVID has done one good positive thing, that it has moved more than 20 crore people in India significantly miles ahead than they would have taken years otherwise. So, obviously it's a negative thing for the society and everyone, but one good thing that it has done is that it's fast tracked the entire journey towards a more efficient way of study. Now, while I say that, I will also want to caution that the relationship between a teacher and a student can never be changed. The mode is temporarily going through live classes, but I think that softer aspects, eye contact, body language, pat on the back, sometimes little bit of scolding, etc. These all things are very efficient when you are face to face. So I'm not saying that everything will go online and everything going online is right thing, but many things going online is the right thing. So I think
blended learning.
Correct. So I think if you look at it, there are two aspects. One is on the teacher side, what teachers does to the students, and one is on the student side, what he does himself or herself. So I'm saying technology can play a huge role on the second side. On the first side, there are certain limitations, but yes, it can help the teacher.
Very interesting, Vivek. Thank you so much. I'm going to move to Amit. Amit, you've had diverse experience across medtech, fintech, and edtech, and I don't know if there are any more techs to add in there. A very simple question to start with. How unaware do you think that people, and if you may have an opinion, parents are generally about the changes that are manifesting in the global markets in terms of employable skills? how important is pre, post, and during COVID is this entire the awareness, not just knowing how to work with computers and a little bit of this and that, but proper awareness on the technology, the AI and everything. How is that changing the employment? The way people are looking at employment or new employees.
I think, Pallavi, first of all, thank you for having me in this session. I mean, the change has been amazing. It's rapid. I'll just take a couple of examples, my real life examples to make a point. This goes back in mid to late 80s when in India, color TV was introduced. And I was talking to my grandmom and she said, wow, the world has changed. And I said, how come the world has changed? She said, the world has moved from radio to TV. And now we can actually see what is happening in New York or France. And it just so happened that accidentally from my mouth, I said, because in that era, Star Trek as a serial was very active. We used to love it and all. And I said, you never know, there could be a time when we are talking to the person over the phone and we can see each other, And little did we know that in 20 years, something like that would happen. And, FaceTime and all these things will come. I do feel that every opportunity, be it COVID, every incident that happens is an opportunity for a change. This era is just telling us that the change is rapid. From radio to TV, TV to computer, it took years, 10 years, 5 years, 20 years. Now with internet being there, things are happening at a faster pace. So my first point is, I think we have to embrace as parents or teachers or whatever, that the game is, or the landscape is changing, like the way Vivek mentioned, not the relationship, but the ways teachers will be tutoring students. I think the second very big aspect for me, Pallavi, is career planning. The career planning, it was not very important. It was important back then, but still we used to have physical teachers guiding us, teachers who had gone through the same book system and they were guiding. Now think about it. Teachers, when they grew up, it was different era. And now these students are growing up in the iPad era. So we have not seen it, but we have the similar duties. So I do feel that career planning landscape is changing, and we'll take just one small example on that. I remember very forcefully when I was in 6th grade, my mom forced me during my summer vacation for 2 months for me and my brother to learn typing. And I said, why are we learning typing? I mean, it doesn't make sense. And in that era, resume used to have typing speed in it. And few of people would remember, and that used to be one big sort of KRA. We learned typing, very boring, for 2 months, and maybe it was a skill that worked. But as a parent, my mom's guidance was, as a parent, what can I do considering today so that I take my kid and prepare him or her for the next level? I think that's the best thing we can do as parents and teachers to make the kids sort of, go through that. So I think the importance of career planning has really, really increased.
Fantastic. I think I remember that as well. In my 10th vacation, I learned HTML and God knows what else. And then within I think a quarter, I was teaching at the same place, in my summer break to earn some money. Of course, I never got that, but it was fun nevertheless. I've forgotten everything.
Yeah.
So yes, I remember.
All the more, a lot of times when you are trying certain things like HTML coding or programming or something else, right? I went to an NIIT course also at some point, maybe more for certification than coding, I guess. But the point is you try to learn few things and unlearn few things and then figure out what works for you. Unless and until you don't try to attempt yourself in 5-7 things, you don't come to know what is that one thing you are good at.
I think that opens up the space for me to ask Rohit the most burning question of this panel, which is, Rohit, I'm going to, if you could unmute yourself.
Yeah, Pallavi.
Why there is a lot of brouhaha about coding? I mean, maybe I have only heard it in the last 2 months because lockdown kind of gave us mothers very little to do with their children. But, of course, all this, the deal about the white hat and of course, a lot of people around, of course, Speed Labs getting into it, they're best equipped. But what is this about coding and why do children need it? It's the simplest question, but I'm thinking it's not going to be the simplest answer.
So yes, firstly, Pallavi, thanks for having me here. So, this is a very important aspect of, as a parent, how you are thinking about your child's upbringing, etc. So I have a daughter who is in class 3 and I'm already preparing her for coding. So when we look at coding, we can look at it in two ways. So one is that it can be used to deliver something, build something, give shape to your ideas, or it could be a way of setting foundation for your kids' ability to think analytically, structure a solution to a problem, break down large problems into smaller ones, and see how the kids go about solving those problems. So it has a larger role to play rather than saying that yes, coding is required. It can really shape up a kid's ability to think and how they are actually perceiving things, how they are actually thinking about how they need to create a lot of how they need to go about solving problems around them and so on and so forth. So it's an extremely important skill that the kids need to have, not because they need to do something, but because it can help them build up a lot of foundation skills which are required to do a lot many other things in life.
Can any of you explain this to me in form of an example? Because I have heard this, but I still don't understand. And I get it. I mean, I get programming, the logical building process and the what do you call the flow chart and everything. But let's say a second grader or a third grader, how tangibly is different is what is taught in these coding classes in grade 2, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9. How is it different?
Okay, so see, when you look at the formative years of a kid, first phase of teaching is about getting them comfortable with these technologies, and once they get over with it, that's when they start feeling a lot more comfortable and start building up things. So, for example, like my daughter is going through a phase where she's getting very comfortable with these technologies. Now she comes up to me and talks about what things she's doing. So, in fact, incidentally now her best friend is Nanu because she can actually communicate with her Nanu so well using WhatsApp, and it's not just WhatsApp. So what is happening is she's actually coming up with stickers to communicate with her Nanu, and now she's actually using MS Paint to create those stickers. Right. So now it's not just about using things which are in front of her, but also kind of thinking, how do I give shape to my ideas, right? So it's not necessarily that I'll find everything out there, but how do I actually create stuff which can be sent out to the other person. So
a lot of problem solving and a lot of
yeah, it's about ability to think and ability to say that okay, I can create something out of the skill that I have. It's kind of liberating for kids.
No, I mean, it sounds fantastic and fascinating. And my son has done a class and he loves it. And I'm just, in fact, that drove me to talk to Vivek about having this, because I thought that if I am in so many minds, then I'm sure there'd be more of us out there. I'm going to go to Nitesh. Nitesh, you're a product guy. Tell me, taking on to a similar question to Rohit, how lucrative do you think equipping children with the coding skills today is for their futures and across the board, across careers? They could get into filmmaking, they could get into art, architecture, engineering, medical. Do you think there are transferable skills that one picks up when one right now and for the next few years is indulging into something like coding? Where do you see a connection there?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Pallavi, to invite me here. It's a pleasure. And on the question of being lucrative, I think I don't know how lucrative it may sound, but I think I look at it from perspective of developing a child, and for that matter, even developing yourself. And I see a personal development from 3 dimensions, right? And as we call it, body, mind, and soul. And from that perspective, I think for body, different things, getting into sports skills or getting into fitness design, what to eat, those are important. And from soul perspective, how do you enjoy yourself, how to make friends, and those skills are important as well. And I see the programming or the coding skill fitting into the puzzle from the perspective of developing your mind. And as I think my friends here, Amit and Rohit, have talked about it, it develops 2 important skills for your child. One is problem solving, right? And 2, creative thinking, right? So, programming helps you to sort of break a bigger problem into smaller chunks, right? And that's very basics of problem solving, that given a huge challenge to you, right? How do you go about doing it? How do you face it? And you really need to break down into simple things. You have to provide instruction 1, instruction 2, instruction 3, and then slowly you come to a solution, right? So I think that's an important skill for every kid to learn, and programming helps you in that. Creativity, I remember my times, I think I was kind of resonating with what Amit was saying in terms of how we used to learn typing. And I remember at my times, it's quite magical, I think, for me, when I was introduced to programming. I said, wow, I mean, you could do something as an input and output, put some steps, and it's something that's coming out. And it almost felt like, hey, I could show some magic to my friends out there. And that sort of brings innovation and creativity in you, right? You have something powerful that you can play around with. And that's an important skill. I mean, you are introduced to this. You can let your brain and creativity go crazy about this, right? I mean, whatever you want to solve. You want to solve. I was talking to my son. He's 10-year-old. That hey, what could you do? And he gave an interesting problem. I want to solve that. What food I should eat. So whether eating tomato is good today or should I eat this? And he said, hey, yeah, that's an interesting problem. And yeah, why not? You can solve it. I was just checking that, hey, what kind of things you would like to solve the programming? And yeah, kids could go crazy. They can go creative. They can go innovative. So yeah, it's an important area for them to develop. So Uber point is that, yeah, beyond just sort of career option, you mentioned that, hey, it has got a lot more dimensions to it. A skill that you can apply in every area. So filmmaking, engineering.
No, I like hearing that.
Yeah.
So the point is that like the whole universe is always interested in ROI, right? So are parents sometimes. And that's why I had to ask that question. But I'm absolutely happy with the answer. I know what you're saying. It's a transcript. It's a skill that enhances you as a person. And yeah. I completely get that. And I think when I made the switch from investment banking to marketing, I realized how structure helped me think better than, I mean, I wouldn't say this, but let's say agencies. Because you break a problem very differently and you approach a problem very differently. And I think that today the magic lies there, not in knowing everything, but in just knowing where to go and how to go. Amit, could I ask you to throw light on a certain real life examples as to when you were, working in US and the works, how different were students or trainees or management level, people like when we went there, and how different were you from them? You were from one of the best, of course, schools in India, and you went to Cornell. How different is the thought process, is the approach of even students? So it's a question which is not exactly just coding, but when you were in Cornell, how were your other batchmates? How were you different from them? I'd really want to take this opportunity to understand that, and for our viewers to also understand.
Sure. Thanks for asking that, Pallavi. I mean, at Cornell, I'll just give you, our batch size used to be around 300, out of which, we were around 25 to 28 Indians. So within Indians, you have Indians and those who have lived in US and are Indians. So there is a certain nationality breakup. At a high level, you will find 200 Americans and rest 100, which is 1/3, between Europeans, Koreans, Chinese, Japanese, Indians, like that. I think one of my biggest learning, or the myth that got broken, was I thought I'm an intelligent guy. It got really broken once I lived there. Second, I thought that I was pretty creative. I thought that I can handle sales and marketing type areas well. But when we did group studies, group workshops with the kids over there, they had a very different way to think too. And I do want to mention this in this light that although we as engineers or Indians or IIT engineers, whatever you say, we are good at math and stat, we sometimes tend to believe that is the world. And actually that is not the world, because the world is much more bigger, larger, wider, particularly on the creative side. And what I realized was that is one area in my upbringing. I can say for myself, I was all into a CBSE sort of education. It was more, mugging up things. If you don't like it, just mug it up and go. And grades and scores and all that. That really was hurting me. And because most of the things we were doing at B school was group work. Most of the time, grades were like group work. And I realized that in the job also, it is teamwork. The way you are successful is based on how you operate in the team setting. You can be a great coder, but at the same time, if you are lifting the team up, I think that can be a big skill. See, second thing in my US experience, which was very interesting, was it has some relevance today, Pallavi, what we are facing during COVID era. They asked me, one of my previous employer, they asked me to start this practice called bioinformatics. Without getting into the details, it's basically a marriage of three things: biology, chemistry, maths, stats, and computer science and artificial intelligence. I was really scared. I had no idea of biology, chemistry, but I had some bit of understanding of math and all this side. But think about it, that what it tells me is that in tomorrow's world, next 10 years down the line, when our kids will be growing up, there will be newer fields which we have not anticipated. The skill is not that can we make them learn those skills today? Well, we cannot, because we don't know what is about to come. But we can prepare them for that possibility. When a newer skill comes, how would you operate and how would you think? That for me, when I went at Cornell, I thought that I didn't know that. I'll just give one brief example. We were making a presentation to a prof on marketing side, and we were a team of 4 people, 2-3 Americans, couple of us, from other nationalities. This one American kid told us that, okay, whenever we do the slide change, it was a presentation on bowling alley. Whenever we do the slide change, initially, we will throw the ball, like how you do it in a LA, and we give the baton to the other guy. That was something which we never thought. Not that, it was making it a little more fun, creative, because we were in that topic. I do feel that very important to have a diverse exposure as much as we can.
No, that's the reason I asked you that, Amit, because my years spent abroad, I realized that we are way too stuck to the books across these schools and across engineering, whatever. We are just way too on the books, and we live with the notion that we are the smartest. In the land of Aryabhatta, there's no one smarter than us. So I think this coding, the reason I asked right now is that coding kind of is something that allows them to do fun things, like, find what food to eat and how much nutrition value does the tomato have, and, how much do I need to compensate for something today. And it's that problem thinking. And you really picked up a very important point, which struck the right chord, is that it's not important to learn XYZ. It's important to know how to learn. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of us are gravitating towards the IGCSE, IB, because they seem to offer that. I'm sure CBSE and ICSE are moving towards that, but having come from CBSE systems, we know that at least so far it wasn't that. I'm hoping it changes. So I think coding is a way that all the other children also are getting a slice into the life of how it can be a little more fun. So thanks for that perspective.
Sure.
I'm going to pose this next question to Rohit. Rohit, the World Economic Forum predicts that 75 million jobs will be replaced by AI by 2030. That's a statistic and that's a forecast made. We know how those forecasts are made, but let's say we assume that's the right forecast. What would you recommend to people on how to navigate this job market? And here you can address grade 12 students or, slightly senior students who are watching this. And what are the skills they should upscale to? And where does this conversation we're having about coding, where does that feature?
Right. So, Pallavi, I think I'll just carry forward what Amit was saying. I think if you look at some of the job interviews or some of the professions in which people go and interview, a lot of times it's not important what people know. It's also about how can they pick up new things. And in fact, a lot of times people ask you, tell me some 3 failures and how you overcame those 3 failures, right? So it's very important to see how a person has thought through when they failed, and did they have ability to actually bounce back when they failed, right? So that is something extremely important when we are talking about job losses. So it's really, as human race, we have to bounce back, and we've done that before, right? It's not that this is something that we are facing now. We faced similar situation when it was an industrialization area. Now we are in digitalization area, and I think in next 5 years it will be like a AIization era, right? So the times are going to change, the scenario is going to change, but it's about how do you kind of equip yourself to take on the problems and navigate through that entire maze. that is going to be extremely important. And as humans race, I'm sure we will up our game, and we'll be able to achieve the next level that we set for ourselves. So it's really an abstract that you think about it, where uh, uh, you don't know what it's going to be after 10 years. But yes, what you are very, very sure is that we'll be able to, if we are losing 75 million jobs because of AI, we'll be probably creating, let's say, 100 million jobs for building AI for humans, right? Who knows?
Absolutely.
So maybe there is net 25 million additional jobs which will be created.
Fantastic perspective.
So it's going to be like that, and I really believe that the things are going to be better as we move forward. And human race is such that it's never going to be a scenario where we are lying low and we are not able to solve any of the problems which are thrown at us.
Fantastic. Rohit, can I ask you in brief, what is it that your company does? If you can explain to us, because I was very fascinated by the .ai and I want to ask more. So maybe that would throw an interesting perspective. Sure. Can you just tilt the camera a little down so I can see you a little better?
All right. Okay. Perfect. So what we do is we take huge amount of data and we create AI models. So these models could be used to understand what humans are saying, and we understand those things, and we are able to respond to them. So these days you would be interacting with banks and insurance policies, and you won't even realize that you're not even talking to a human sitting in the back end, right? It's the AI engine which is actually responding to you. So we are creating those AI engines. So we are working a lot on the voice side, where we are trying to understand human voice. We are also working on the vision side, where we are trying to look at documents and images and seeing what they're all about, and can we actually use them to create something else. And the next phase of investments that we are making now is on the generative AI. So it's no more an area where we are spending to understand something as computer would understand text or voice or images. It's also about how you are able to generate stuff artificially, right? So you would have seen a lot of videos floating around where Barack Obama is saying something, but that is a fake, because it's basically an AI engine which has actually created that voice, which is like Obama voice, and the lip movement is kind of simulated. So those are the things that are going to be the future. So we call that as generative AI. So we generate stuff. So if you look at some of the innovation which is going on, now computers can even create complete music albums, right? So it's gone to that extent, and it's going to be far more complex or far more intriguing as we move forward.
It sounds fascinating. I'm very curious for more, but I'm going to stop myself there. You also use this in retargeting and marketing and stuff like that? Do you also?
Yes, we do.
I'm going to reach out to you then. Yeah. Nitesh, I'm going to jump to you here. A lot of children, especially in the senior grades, they have to, maybe Vivek, you can also kind of pitch in with this answer, because you're in the zone of teaching children. A lot of children who are 10th graders, 9th graders, their time is limited. Right. So when they have to take this decision of, okay, a coding class, they have to wait vis-a-vis, let's say, a speed lab math or, something else. So a lot of them I've heard have thought that I have to take humanities or I have to take arts, so I don't need this. And of course, you guys have answered the question that it's not much about coding as about problem solving, critical thinking, creative thinking. But I want you to spend some time and talk about the fact that coding is for everyone. Anyone who can have a bent of mind, who would enjoy watching a Michelangelo movie or this life journey of Picasso, could also benefit from learning about coding, especially in the senior grade. So I would like you to talk about that.
Yeah, I think, a good point. I think coding is definitely for everyone. I don't see that we need to typecast here that, hey, kids with certain IQ levels, somebody who's good in maths or science are the ones who should pick this up. I think what you need to learn coding is some amount of curiosity and wanting to do magic. I think that's all is needed. Wow. And you can get anybody started on coding. You should be curious about things that, hey, how this is going to work, how I'm going to instruct this. If I have to tell somebody that, hey, you need to perform this task, then how I'm going to go about doing this. And for that, you don't need any specific skills. It is strictly a learning skill. And you can teach this to anyone who would like to learn that. And yeah, and anybody who wants to sort of be creative, to perform some magic. And I know all the kids love to do magic. So yeah, it should be for everyone.
So it does not mean that the toppers should learn coding.
Not at all. I was the topper myself in my class, so you can see I'm able to do a bit of coding.
No, I know. I'm fairly certain all of you mostly are that category. So, that is a lot. Yes, Vivek.
Yeah, just wanted to add to something what Nitesh said, and relating it to what Rohit also said, is that see, the future is something. If Rohit explains 10 more minutes, then you will think that you are so outdated.
I already think I'm outdated.
I will think that I'm so outdated. But the point is that that's going to be the reality, right? If we tell our parents that we can, by just touching on the screen, we can do everything possible in the world, mostly, they will say that, okay, this is like a Brahmastra, right? That, okay, nobody has a crack of it. Now, the things which are looking unbelievable today will become very much norm after 5 years or 10 years, not just 5 years, within 5 years. So, and I think I was talking to my son that, okay, if we were to launch a course in coding, what do you think would be a tagline for it? So, his immediate response, the first reaction, which is, we have not yet decided, but I think his first reaction was that code your imagination. So that could be one tagline. So okay, this something like.
Vivek, 1 second. You're breaking up. Are you breaking up for everyone?
Yeah. For me as well, a bit.
Yeah.
I think, Vivek, can you say something so I can hear you?
Yeah. Is it okay? Is it?
Can you just repeat the last bit? Sorry. Can you mention that? Yeah.
No, I said,
you were breaking.
Yes. So I said, code your imagination. Code your imagination is kind of a tagline, but this is one of the considerations that my thing is that humanity and imagination, these are two, inseparable or inseparable things, right? We have moved forward. Like if you think about it, the first, we were all non-vegetarian, right? There was no agriculture, there was no fire, there was no wheel, right? So agriculture or vegetarian is a very much advanced form of diet, right? So people could imagine that, okay, can we create fire artificially? That was just an imagination, and they took maybe years, or I don't know, maybe decades or centuries to actually invent fire, right? Now, the thing is that somebody could imagine that this can happen. The same thing is now, the people who create these kind of tools are the people who imagine these things, right? Now, the way to look at it is that I don't see that we have to achieve something today or tomorrow, but it is a way of thinking, way of living that coding can actually help. It has nothing to do with humanities, it's got nothing to do with marketing, sales, or creativity, but the tool itself will be highly coded. So if you are not comfortable with the basic thinking, you will feel very awkward. You will feel out of place. That, okay, how do I use this? So it's a necessity. It's a life skill which cannot be avoided. Whether you take it as a co-curricular activity right now, or you take it as a extracurricular activity right now, but it is more of a life skill. The way, can you imagine a person who cannot operate a mobile phone now? What will you think about him? That this guy, like, has he come by
living under a rock
or something, right? This is exactly the same thing.
Do all of you believe that?
Yes, obviously.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
fantastic.
Just one very, it may sound very stupid, but very simple example. And I come from a business family. In our childhood, we used to give the bundles of notes that, okay, count this. And there was a small task that you have to also rotate the note if the number is not on the right top. Okay. So there is a unconscious.
I still can't do that.
I don't have the bundle.
I was just gonna say.
You don't come from business family in that case.
So, throw some bundles to us. You want to try it?
Yes, absolutely. Can we just stop this discussion right now and get into the bundles instead?
So there is an issue going on in my mind, right? Whenever I see this, okay, do this. Now, obviously, nowadays everything is digital. We don't have to count notes. But I'm just saying that our brain always works in code, right? It's a very non-linear, multi-dimensional way of working, and that's how our brain also works. So the future is going to not in just our jobs, but in our daily life, including food, to clothing, to
exercising,
even breathing. Yeah. For example, even breathing will be related to something technology where we cannot imagine today. So I think it's more of a life skill, and it will be useful for everyone. It is nothing to do with the domain.
So if I have to simplify this, what all of you are agreeing is that it's not as much as an app that a child makes or something that he creates. It's more a way of understanding or conversing with the universe around, which as it's going to evolve. Is that correct? That is something, an awareness of which right now would help for them to even upgrade themselves when this particular technology also moves up. Is that what we are agreeing with?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what we are learning in 2020 might be relevant in 2030, but what we've learned in 2020 might enable them to learn that thing easier when it comes in 2030. That's what we are saying, right?
Yep. And I think just to add to that, Pallavi, I would say that it's both tangible and intangible benefits that you get, right? Tangible benefits are saying that, hey, the job market is going to change. There's going to be a lot of AI and artificial intelligence that's going to be brought in to every aspect of life. And I think these skills are going to be very tangible skills at those times. And as you spoke earlier, I think in terms of intangible skills, even if you're not applying it, I think you're sort of exercising your mind on it. So the skills
actually
is what you acquire.
I'll give you a very unrelated example, but I think it makes the sense. So Pallavi, I do part-time theater whenever I can as a hobby, and obviously due to COVID, things are out. But there was a time when we were doing theater here in Bombay, which is how it is, and it's a beautiful experience. But I got an opportunity to see theater in Broadway, New York, and one of my friends took me to the behind the scene before the event starts. You just go there 6 hours before and what they are doing. And what I found was that in the entire auditorium of 500 people, they had computers lined up everywhere. And it was not only the backstage guys, but even the artists. So what is inadvertently happening is that the computer and the way things are monitored, even in a theater setting, when the scenes are changing, the way they have to schedule everything is getting programmed. And the more programmed it is, more methodical it is. So not that an artist has to learn, but if he has that skill, it automatically becomes his life skill.
And he's only doing his bit.
He's doing his bit, but it automatically becomes very important and a support system for them if they know a little bit of it. The second very relevant example, I think what Rohit was saying, you think about AI. AI basically is two parts, artificial narrow intelligence and general intelligence. What it means is anything that a human can do in less than 1 second is what we have accomplished with AI today. However, more than 1 second, so say for example, driverless cars. When a car is driving without driver, if it has to take a left or a right turn or something like that, it's a less than 1 second decision for a human. So we have accomplished it. However, if you are driving on a road and there is a guy who wants to stop you with that orange sign or something, and you have to slightly look at him, what he's saying, that is something that AI has not accomplished yet. So think about that. We are sitting on a tip of the iceberg. The entire AI robotics thing is down. Like there is so much to explore in this area that it will become like, I do feel that it will become like a language, like how we learn English and Hindi. AI or computer science is going to be a language. It's a conversation
to converse better.
Now, you want to go with a creative bent or you want to go with a coding bent is up to the kid. Totally up to the kid.
So pretty much it's a language, and the tangible and intangible aspect that you guys were saying, because a lot of parents do think like that and we can't blame them. I mean, time is limited. Money and resources are limited and things are expensive. And The reason we are having this conversation is so that the parents, fence sitters can understand that it is an investment for the right reason, right? If you
Yeah,
look
and
at this conversation, the output of this conversation is so the fence sitters are able to say, okay, you know what, this is meant for us, and that is our objective. So in the tangible to intangible,
see, there is
I'm
one
gonna,
more thing. There is one more
yeah,
thing. In when you going back to my typing example, I would not have done that if I was in college. I did it because I was a kid and I had to listen to my parents, right?
yeah,
So if the parents say today in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, the kid has to do it, and you are pretty
absolutely,
flexible. And then,
absolutely.
so
No, I agree. I mean, honestly, I myself was a fence sitter, but talking to you, I realized that I never thought of it like that, and I consider myself to be smarter.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if I couldn't get it, I'm sure a lot of us wouldn't. And it's the same as when we had our B school resumes and all of that. A little bit something helped, and
yeah,
tangibly, all you boys will agree that that's going to help our children as well to have that
Yeah,
X.
and Amit, no.
yeah.
So if you tell your kids, you type on your on the keyboard, they're going to turn around and say, "Why should we type? We can just speak to the computers now."
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
That's
that's
You're right.
exactly
happening.
right. I think my son doesn't even type for the queries now. So
Yeah. I don't know where this is ending because I give
they're
my
gone
son
beyond
worksheets
typing.
and I tell him, okay, your answer sheets check kar lo. So there's a 4-number addition and I'm like, calculate and check it. But can I just speak it out to Alexa instead? I'm like, so you don't even want to type. Because when he'll type, he'll again make a mistake in writing the right numbers. So that's a practice. They don't want to do that as well. So I guess times are
Yeah.
changing,
Yeah.
and crazily so. And we think we as parents we have the handle, but we don't. Similar to how our moms did not know typing and they made us learn typing is how we don't know coding, but I'm speaking for myself here. I'm sure the four
Yeah.
of you have fair expertise.
So in fact,
Vivek,
Pallavi, I'll give you one more
yeah,
example. So in fact, in my organization, we have a lot of youngsters and who are just passing out of college and joining us. And a lot of times, I face this question that, can you recommend what certification can I do, right? So everybody wants to upscale. They want to prove that, they've acquired new skill and so on. So I keep telling them, hey, by the time you acquire that certificate, things would have moved on. So by the time you acquire that skill, there is something else new in the market. So, why don't you focus on getting something really fast, quick, build something, and then keep learning and keep building on it. Nobody's going to give you a task because you have a certificate. People are going to give you a task because you can solve that, right? So that's the era we are living in. So it's about speed. It's about how fast you can do, how well you can crack a problem. It's not about certificate. It's not about, which school did you went to or what you did historically. What can you do from now on?
I completely resonate with that. I've lived with that thought in my head. And Vivek, that gets me to a very difficult, complex question, but very interesting for me. So recently, Baiju acquired White Hat. White Hat is one of the most popular coding platform. Now, the question that I have is, there are a lot of parents, a lot of people think that we should stick to a brand which is very known for the benefits that it offers, like the certification and the works, and they make an app at the end of the thing. I want to know from you very honestly and very fairly, and not because you might be venturing into coding yourself, but I know that you'll be honest. And tell me really that how much of it is problem solving, critical thinking, and how much of it is benefit due to a bigger platform like a Byju's. Why I'm saying this is when I saw a class being handled for my son who's 10 years, I saw one person interacting with him. Now that one person interacts with him for all those 44 sessions or 48 sessions or what have you. Now my fear was, what if that how is that one person? How much are we relying on that one person and where is the platform? So I am a little confused as well as to when I make that final decision of where to send my child, what should be the question that I'm asking?
Okay. So the question I will split in two parts. First is how much of a brand play is there, and how to decide, what can be other decision factors. So see, brand always is important from the sales and growth point of view. And having said that, brand is never built on a bad product. I mean, I can challenge you to think of a
I can
brand
agree with
where
that. No,
where you
I
can
agree
say
with
the
you.
product is bad, right? See,
Absolutely.
you can never make a brand for a bad product. Okay, the converse is possible, that you can have a good product which doesn't have a brand.
Absolutely agree with you.
Right. So there is absolutely no question, that Whitehead Junior has done fantastic thing, and that's the reason they could scale so well, and so many positive feedbacks and everything was good. So hats off to him, and so I don't know. I don't have much to say on that side. I think they have done reasonably well, and there is absolutely no question of not having faith in the product or the process or the faculty or anything. I mean, they are fantastic. Now, coming to the second question, how do we make a decision on which one to choose? Like it could be a local player or a national player, etc. I think that is where some things can come into the play, and which are very personalized. So if you are very much process driven, brand driven, right? As a person for anything, I'm not talking about the coding course per se. I'm saying person. So then you say that, okay, I am done with it, and whatever comes on my way, I'll be happy with it, right? Or you are a person who like more personalization, who wants that, okay, can after fourth session I change the gear?
Got it. Depending on the child's ability, growth,
right,
interest,
absolutely.
instincts.
And changing gear is not always going fast. I mean, changing gear could also be going slow. Or do I have flexibility to change the course completely? I mean, I was going on this track. After fifth session, I realized that, okay, this is not my track. I don't like it anymore. Do I need to still continue the remaining 20 sessions, or can I have a switch in between? Now, these are very different decision parameters. Like I am mostly of the second category, where I think that so I'm not too much of a brand driven person as an individual. I like to evaluate things on my own, and I would like to go for someone who is offering me much more customizable solution. And obviously the quality should never be sacrificed, but I will be happy to experiment, have a more dialogue based understanding and delivery. So I think these are this is just more of a decision making style.
Got it. That's what I'm trying to ask, that how do we make that decision for some people who don't understand coding as such?
Yeah, this is fine. So I just want to relate it to one more thinking, which is also the backbone of coding per se, right? So why do we code? We want to code to achieve a particular objective, right? So when we want to start a code, or when we want to start anything in life, we decide a goal that, okay, this is what we want to achieve. And then, as Nitesh said, that you split the entire problem in multiple modules, or smaller components, smaller problems, and then you start solving each problem individually and relate the outcome of first problem to the second problem, and second problem's outcome to the third problem, and build the chain, right? So this is how the coding also teaches you as a human being, that you can decide the larger objective, you can decide the parameters, and then you can break it into a smaller problem. Now, coming to the decision making for coding course per se is also the same way of thinking. What is, as a parent of class 6 child or class 8 child, what is my objective? Is my objective to teach him Python? Is my objective to teach him a course to make website? Is he going to start making website tomorrow? Right? That's not my, at least for me, that's not my objective. My objective is to make him comfortable with technology, start building his mindset for a longer term, building the right life skill in his personality for the career long time. Like the career will be 30 years, 40 years. Making website is not going to help him, throughout the career, but acquiring some element of that skill can help him, right? So I don't think that way. I mean, the courses that we are planning to launch are going to be very, very different than Whitehead Junior.
I'm very happy to hear that. That's the reason I was asking, because I don't believe that it's the same as NIIT course kar liya, Aptech ka course kar liya, and it's done. I think the approach needs to be different. And that's why I was asking this as my last question to all of you, Nitesh. Well, how do you think you can add to what Vivek just said? What should be in my mind as a parent or as a decision maker before I choose the right course or the right approach for coding for children, youngsters, let's say, for whom decisions we have to make?
I think the decision-making product versus, brand versus non-brand, I think as a parent, we face it all the time, right? Recently I was buying a t-shirt for my son, and then the choice was between Nike or what else, right? And that's always the decision we face. And at times brands does help you to make the decision quicker that, hey, yeah, this is a brand, quality should be good. Let's go ahead and do it. But I feel that if you talk about acquiring skills like education or sports for that matter, like my daughter is learning drawing, I think there you need more sort of flexibility. I think as a parent that you want some personalized attention to your kid. And I personally feel that at times brands may not do a good job there. Some brands may do, but some may not. I think like for my daughter, I prefer that they go to a neighbor class rather than some branded class. My son is learning TT, and then I think I prefer somebody who can coach in more personalized way is better than going to a very recognized brand who teaches table tennis, right? So I think
I can see your daughter in the back. She's very close to us.
Yeah.
She's like, Daddy, it's 1 hour, time over.
Done. We'll be done very soon.
No, I know. But thank you so much for that. Rohit, do you have anything to add to that? What should parents be thinking? Because now we've established that coding is for everyone. Coding is not a thing that you learn for a website or an app or a Python, but it's more a language that you understand, that you learn how to understand, and then learn to learn more and how to learn, right? We've agreed to that.
Absolutely.
So my last question to the two of you would be, after you would be Amit, is to what should I be thinking when I choose the right course, because time is limited for us and our children.
I think we should look at what can actually help kids do certain things, right? Which can help kids develop those foundation skill sets or concepts or those kind of things. I think the brand really doesn't matter to me. When I go to market to buy something, what fits me well is what I buy, right? So it's not really that always a product which is Nike product or something else would fit me better than the other things. So I think whichever thing delivers the best value to me and which meets my requirement is something that I should go. So that is my take on it. One has to evaluate. It's a matter relating to your kids, your children. So as parents and as Indian parents, we are super careful about everything. So I think it's best to evaluate, not just blindly go behind the brand.
Absolutely. Amit?
Yeah. So Pallavi, I just have two suggestions for parents. See, one is more as all of us as parents, if we wear that hat, we don't want to come across to our kids exactly how our parents came across to us when they used to say that, okay, we used to study in that road light, or, we used to go 5 kilometers to the school and all that. It is exactly
our parents didn't tell us that, right? Yeah.
I mean,
right.
I'm just saying, when we
street light ke niche padhai kari hai.
वो सब जब हमने सुना है, that is exactly how our kids would be viewing us when we say, what is AI, what is robotics? Oh God, geez, because iPad is the norm. That is how my mind operates, that that is not the picture you want to give. See, second thing is, for example, Aryan, my kid, he's in 6th grade. He loves gaming, and he's very tuned to, even if he wants to learn coding, he wants to learn coding to make a game. And what I realized was, in games, you have to do a right and a left and a shift. The coding aspect itself is different. That is the only thing he loves today. And I don't want to force him to do something which he does not love. So his mindset is operating at a very adaptable and customizable manner, which what Vivek mentioned. So for me, it is advantageous if I put my kid into an organization or a company which can adapt to his mind, rather than giving me a very formatted solution that you have to do chapter 1, 2, 3, 4 up till 20. Instead, I want to pick 4, 6, and 7 that is relevant for my kid and get him go deeper into gaming aspect. So I do feel that there are a lot of value, that can happen.
Got it. So bespoke
versus just to add to what
for all.
Yes.
So Pallavi, just to what Amit is saying, so as an organization, we are building on a concept where, what has happened is typically humans have adapted to machines, right? So people designed computers, said that, the alphabets are going to be arranged this way. So this is the best way to type and you should learn how it's going to be, right? So now the concept that we are trying to drive now through AI is that machines have to adopt to humans, right? So it's no more going to be that you are learning how, let's say, your bank website or your, let's say, your a certain website is going to look like. It's like you are an individual, and I can't bucket you as part of 100,000 other individuals and say that all of them would like the same thing. So we are working on a concept, how AI can actually make the entire system adapt to humans, and that's how I think we should look at these decisions. So what is it that can adapt to our kids, right? We know the strengths and weaknesses of our kids much better than anybody else, and we should have something, an approach which can actually have a very, very focused, personalized approach towards our kids.
Absolutely. I think this is fantastic. Very helpful. One last question across the board. How much screen time for children?
I think there is no limit.
4 to 5 hours?
Yeah. I bought anti-glare glasses yesterday for my kid. I strongly recommend everyone buys it, and don't worry too much about screen time.
Don't worry about it. Not right now, at least, right? All right. So coming from dads who are all tech, I'm sure that's a little skewed answer right there. But on that note, thank you so much, all of you. This was fantastic. I don't know where the hour went. I can ask more, but I would like to let you go because I can see the little one is getting anxious behind you, Nitesh.
He's trying to talk as well, but looks like she's feeling.
What is her name, by the way?
She's Neha.
Neha. Hi, Neha. I don't know if she can hear me.
Name is Neha.
Neha. It's a fantastic name. So anyways, boys, thank you so much, Amit, Rohit, Nitesh, and of course, Vivek. This was fantastic. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And thanks for being here and thanks for helping us with this decision making.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pallavi.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Can we stop the live now?